Good evening, or late afternoon, and welcome to All Levels Yoga. I'm Chris, and it's kind of a gloomy day, but it looks like our smoke is starting to get better, so our breathing is going to get better, and our ability to be outside is going to get better, which is very welcome. If you are joining in, please feel free to drop any requests in the comments. Hi there, Joanne. Hi, Misan. I'm just checking to see. Hi, Sasha and Shivanti and Janice. Yeah, just let me know if you have any requests. I think right now, if you haven't heard the news, Ruth Bader Ginsburg has passed away. And so right before I was coming, I heard that news. And as many of you know, we've been celebrating her here at the Hatha Yoga Center all this year. And it's a big loss. So one of the special things about Ruth Bader Ginsburg is that she's 87 years old and still a practicing member of the Supreme Court. And also she had a very powerful physical practice that she did, which included planking, and she had a trainer. And so we've been kind of, all year we've been kind of, we always have like a pose of the year here. And so we've been doing some planking. So we might do some planking in honor of her life this evening. So I'll just do a well-rounded practice, but if you have any requests, please feel free to let me know. So let's start in a seated position. Just find your seat, let your sit bones be heavy, and just allow your legs to relax and feel your spine rising up, and find your neutral spine. And you might kind of just notice the position of your head. Sometimes it helps to pat the top of your head just to locate it in space. So just avoiding your head being forward, bringing it back up and over your shoulders. You might roll your shoulders up and back a couple times, and then just let your shoulders naturally relax away, maybe bringing your hands down onto your thighs. And just take a couple of deeper, more comfortable, grounding breaths to prepare ourselves for a practice. So feeling the breath coming in and out through your nose. And feel your rib cage expanding and contracting with the breath. So beginning to feel the movement of the breath in your body. And as you're inhaling, allowing your belly to expand and relax so that your respiratory diaphragm can move down and flatten out to accommodate the air. You might gently draw the belly in at the end of the exhale. So a couple more nice deep grounding breaths like this, just bringing yourself into the awareness of your breath. Noticing if you have any tension in your jaw or face that you can release. Feeling how the breath is flowing freely as it comes in and out through your nose. And then you might just take your arms and sweep them up, inhaling, reaching, lengthening up from the sit bones all the way up the sides of your body, maybe lifting your gaze. And then bending your elbows, you could bring your palms together down through the midline. Let's do that 2 more times. Just sweep the arms out, kind of slowly, like you're gathering up some air, some fresh, clean air, and bringing it back down for yourself, which is what we're assuming is going to happen here in the next 24 or so hours. Our air quality index is getting better. 1 more breath, inhale up, filling your lungs, and then exhale, bring your hands back together, just bring them all the way down together at your heart. Hi, Kelly. And then you might set an intention for your practice this evening. You could just pause to do that. It might be just to bring yourself into more emotional balance. Bring yourself into your own body and breath. And then let's come to hands and knees. And Sasha says, I'd like some of that upper back between the shoulders work. You got it. I don't think there was anything else there. I'm going to try not to grimace into the camera here. Okay, I'm going to move this up. Sorry about that. All right. Whoops. Okay, sorry about that. So coming to hands and knees. Some wild camera work there. Spread your hands and bring your shoulders right over your wrists, knees right under the pelvis, and just find your tabletop position, feeling your shoulder blades kind of flat against your rib cage, and then tuck the pelvis and start to round your spine, coming into cat. Exhale, letting your head kind of be the last thing, drawing your chin to your chest. Then inhale, drop the belly, coming into cow. So just feeling the spine moving, all the segments of the spine, and also all of the kind of the ability of that all to move together in one giant segment. A couple more times through, moving with the breath. And then just coming back to your hands and knees. Walk your knees back a little bit and come into prayer pose. Walk your hands forward. Keep your forearms lifted and bring your head down. You can always put a cushion under your head or a block if you need to. Kind of wrapping the elbows in so that you're broadening in the upper back. Taking a couple breaths here, grounding yourself. And then you might try bending your elbows. You kind of have to maneuver a little bit and bring your palms together or fingertips together and palms apart. If you can. Kind of getting into the mid-back a little bit more and also into the tricep area and under the armpits. Nice deep breath, and then release that. Walking your hands over to the left. Keep drawing your right hip back. Breathing. Nice steady breath. In and out through the nose. And then walking hands over to the right. And feeling the stretch up the left side of your torso. Drawing your left hip back. And breathing. And then hands back to center. And then let's come back up to hands and knees. And this time, let's, as we start to do our cat, just rounding your spine, draw your hips back at the same time towards your heels. You don't have to bring them all the way down yet. And then kind of rounding up and starting to arch and come into your cow. So now we're just adding one movement. So round, draw the hips back towards the heels. And then coming forward, rounding a bit, and then starting to arch and inhale. So you're just adding a little more movement. One more time through, rounding, coming back, exhale, and then arching and coming forward. And then let's add yet another movement to that. Let's round and draw the hips back, tuck your toes, and then lift up into downward dog. And maybe you could come in and out of that a couple times, bring your knees down and kind of come into the arch, and then round, draw the hips back, lift the hips. So moving in some way through this cat-cow and also through down dog. Finding a rhythm with it. And then everybody come back to down dog the next time and just pause there. And take a breath. You could press into one heel and the other. Stretching into the calves. You might pause for a moment on one side. Nice deep steady breath. And then come back to your center and bend your knees and walk your hands back so that you're coming into a forward bend at the back. back of your mat. So find your long neutral spine there. And take a couple breaths. So feeling how you're keeping your head and shoulders lifted, your tail is lifting. And then walk your hands back out again to downward dog. Maybe on your fingertips, maybe bending the knees. And now let's come forward into plank. And you might come back and forth between plank and downward dog a couple of times. Moving with the breath, so maybe exhale back into down dog and inhale forward into plank pose. Keeping the head lifted as you come forward. Using the muscles in the center, your core, your belly to help move you. And then just come back to downward dog. And pause for a moment, find your breath. You can step your right foot up and over the left, bringing the sole of the right foot to the floor, lifting your right hip. Breathing. And then stepping back through center, stepping left foot up and over the right, lifting your left hip. You can always let your right heel lift if you need to. And then again back to center. And then let's come forward and come into, let's come into plank. Keep your head lifted. And then with your elbows by your sides, you can bring your knees down. Just come down onto the belly and bring your forearms forward for Sphinx pose. And take a few breaths here. You can kind of move a little bit, looking back over one shoulder and the other. And then pause in the center, take a couple of breaths. Feeling your belly lifting and your tailbone lengthening down towards your heels. So you're taking some of the compression out of your low back. And then just sweep your arms back, clasping your hands. And roll the shoulders up and back. Keep your toes on the floor. Do a little rocking from side to side. Maybe turning the head. Eventually, you could roll all the way over onto your right side. And breathe. And then back through center. And over onto the left side, doing that as gracefully as possible. Probably helps if you have some carpet under you or padding underneath you. And then back onto your belly. And you can lift your toes. Keep your neck long. Locust pose. And then release. Bring your hands under your shoulders and press back up to downward facing dog. And just take a breath here. You can pick your right hand up and reach it back for your left ankle or lower leg. And release that, and then pick up your left hand and bring it back to the right lower leg or ankle. Nice deep breath, really wrap the right elbow in so the shoulder blade can stay snug right against the rib cage and slide. And then coming back to center to downward dog. We've got a little yelling going on outside. That happens here, especially on certain nights. And let's step the right foot forward. Step it pretty far forward and bring your left knee down. You could come up onto fingertips, keeping your head and shoulders lifted, and breathing. So you're kind of pressing the right side of your abdomen into your inner right thigh. You can use blocks if you need to. I always picture people using like telephone books or encyclopedias at home, and then I realize probably nobody has those things in their houses anymore because it's 2020, not 1975. And then you might draw the hips back and turn the toes up, stretching into the back of your leg, drawing the hips back, keeping your spine long. So try lifting your head and shoulders a bit. Yeah. Just coming for more of a neutral spine. And if you kind of drag your heel towards you, that kind of, you'll feel it waking up the back of the leg. And then come forward again. And then walk this foot back a little bit so you can come up into the lunge so that you're more balanced over the left knee. And then let your arms come up and take a couple breaths. Nice. Keeping the hips pretty square. You can tuck your back toes under. If you want, you could try bringing your left hand back. It might be enough to just take a twist, but you could also try bringing your left hand back to your heel. If that's just too much, just stay with a twist like this. So one more breath there, and then circle the arms back up. And then exhale the hands down, step back to downward dog again. Now we're starting to get warmed up, so downward dog's starting to feel a little different maybe. So find your breath. And then let's step the left foot forward, bringing it to the front of the mat, bringing your right knee down, and coming up onto fingertips, kind of pressing the left inner thigh into your belly a bit. Nice, deep, steady breath. Forgot to turn it down. And taking a couple breaths here. And then draw the hips back, turning your toes up on your left foot. Again, kind of paying attention to your spine here. It's sort of easy to start to round forward, but keep your neutral spine. So the tail's lifting and head and shoulders are lifting. And kind of drag your heel back and you'll feel the back of the leg waking up. And then come forward again into the lunge. And then let's walk your foot back. These mats are sticky. And bring your weight over your right knee. You might tuck your back toes under. Let your arms float up. Keeping the hips square. Might help to have just a little feeling of engagement in your right outer hip, glutes. Lifting your gaze. And then you can bring your right hand either into the twist or bring it all the way back. Just being mindful of your back if that feels like too much. Six back bend. And then sweeping the arms up. You got to use your core to help bring you back up. And then exhale, bring your hands down, step back again to downward facing dog. Just taking a little bit of movement, if you'd like, bending into one knee or the other. Moving the hips. And then coming back to center, you could lift your right leg straight up. Just let it float up. Yes, press up through your heel. And then stack the hips, kind of opening the hips, bending your right knee. You kind of look under your right arm. And then stretching the leg back up, squaring your hips, and let the leg float down. And then let the left leg float up, keeping the hips level to begin with. Finding your breath, and then open your hips, stacking the hips, and then bending your left knee. You might look under your left arm. And stretch in the front of your belly. And then straightening that leg back up and letting it float back down. And then bring your knees down and come to hands and knees again. And take a breath. And then let's do a couple cat cows. Just do 2 or 3 cat cows, just coming back to your center. tabletop, and we'll reach back through the right foot and tuck the ball of your foot into the mat and just stretch a little bit into the calf and the back of your right leg. You could rock a little bit. That feels good. And then let that foot come up, pressing back through your heel. Maybe reaching forward through your left arm. So keeping the hips level, like if you reach back for your lower back, you're not lifting one hip. Draw the belly up. Find the breath. And release it. And just circle your hips in one direction. And the other, you can make big circles or and then come back to your hands and knees to center, to tabletop. Reach back through the left foot, tuck your toes, and stretch into the calf, into the ankle joint, maybe rocking a little. Some wild noise out on the street tonight. At least it's sounding friendlier than it was. Reach back through the heel, lift the foot off the floor, and then forward through the right arm, thumb pointing up. Nice, breathing. So feel your center is kind of engaging and lifting, and you're lengthening. You can also lift the top of your right foot off the floor if you want more. Find your gaze. And release it. And again, circle the hips. Just letting it go. Coming back to hands and knees, then tuck your toes, bring the hips back and lift the hips, coming back to downward facing dog. Finding your nice steady breath. And then coming forward into plank pose. And let's walk the right hand into the center of the mat and spin over onto the edge of the right foot, coming into side plank. So your hand's a little bit in front of the shoulder. You could lift the arm up and also bring it over if you want, stacking your hips, keeping your neck long, breathing. You can also look down if that's easier on your neck. Just another breath. And then bring your left hand back down, come back to downward dog. If you need to take a break, you can just come to your knees. Shake your wrists out. And then we'll bring the left hand into the center of the mat and spin over onto the outer edge of your left foot. So side plank. Opening up, stacking the hips. Maybe the right arm comes up and over. It's okay to look up or straight ahead or down, but keep your neck long and in line with the rest of the spine. So your whole body is involved, not just your left arm. And one more breath, and turn and come back to down dog. Take a breath here. And then let's come forward into plank pose. And then with elbows by your sides, come halfway down at most, and maybe coming all the way up into cobra. So press into the floor and roll your shoulders back and down. Breathing. Might be able to feel your rib cage expanding, kind of pressing into the tops of your arms. When you inhale, so feeling the movement of your breath, and then keeping the elbows by your sides, just come down onto your belly, make a little shelf, rock your hips side to side. Breathe into your belly, take a couple of grounding breaths. And then let's bring your arms out to the sides, like an airplane, and lift up, and then lift the toes. And then maybe the arms could come forward, like superhuman, balancing on your belly. Sweeping the arms back, clasp your hands. And take another breath. And then just release. Again, you make a little pillow for your head, rock your hips. Breathe into your belly, just letting it go. And then from here, extend your left arm out to the side. You can bring it just a little bit below the shoulder. And then maybe using your right arm, you might want something under your head like a pillow or a block for this. We're going to roll over onto the left side, being mindful, go slow. You could bring your right foot over. So it's kind of nice to have a block or something under the head here. So this is a pretty deep stretch for that area you asked for, Sasha, for the mid-back. So, and also for the front of the chest. Some people can reach back and clasp hands. I cannot do that, but it's a possibility. And then just slowly exit, so roll back onto your belly. And then we'll extend the right arm. Palm is down. Use your left hand to help steer you over. Bringing your left foot back, so you're almost like you're going to come into like bridge pose. Some people can actually bring both feet to the floor, and it just depends on your body proportions. And just go slow and feel into the pose, breathing. Maybe some people can reach their hands and clasp their hands. Sometimes it's hard to even know where your other hand is. It feels kind of weird. Yes. And just one more breath. When you come out, just slowly roll out of it. Bring onto your belly. Again, making your little shelf and rock your hips. And then let's just come back up to downward dog. That'll help even us back out. So finding down dog, really spread your hands and press into your hands, lift your hips, wrap your elbows in, feel your shoulder blades sliding. And then from here, let's step the right foot forward. This time we'll keep the left knee lifted. So coming into warrior one with your back heel lifted. So yeah, keeping your hips square, finding your steady breath and steady gaze. And then we might do a twist like we did when we had our knee down. So just bringing your, wrong way. Bring your left arm forward, palms facing up. And just feel how the twist is happening in your upper body, strong in your legs, and then sweep the arms back up. Just one more breath there. And then bring your hands together at your heart, and you have two choices. You could take the twist with your left elbow to the outer right knee. You can also bring your left hand down. And so taking a lunge with a twist, revolved lunge. And so opening the chest, lifting up the back of your thigh, your left thigh. Watch for the head to just let it come back and feel how it's not, there's no forward motion of the head at all. One more breath. And then sweep your right arm down, step back to down dog. Find the breath here. And let's come forward into plank. Pause for a moment, keeping your elbows by your side, just come halfway down at most, and then up into the cobra. And then back up to downward dog. Lift your hips, tuck your toes, and take a breath there. And then we'll step the left foot forward for the warrior one lunge with your right heel lifted. You got this. Take your time. It helps to have your feet hip width. If they're too narrow, it can be a little wobbly. And also to feel a little bit of this outer hip action here kind of stabilizes you. And then we'll bring right hand forward, palms open, left arm back, twisting in the upper body. And then coming back up. Nice, staying strong in your legs. And then right hand down for the twist. So really strong in your right leg, opening your chest. Keep drawing your left hip back. Steady breath. Bringing the head back too. And then bringing the left hand down, sweeping it down, step back to downward dog. Taking a breath there. You could try picking up your left leg. Just let it float up. Keep your hips really square, so sacrum stays right where it is. Maybe you can pick your right hand up and bring it back up to the lower back, or just pick it up off the floor, playing with the two-legged, two-limbed dog. Bring your right hand down, and then step your left foot down. And then we'll let the right foot float up. Really wrap your elbow in on the right arm and feel the shoulder blade snug and able to slide. Then lift your left hand up to the lower back if you can, or just play with picking it up off the floor. Feeling for your both hips to stay level, so the right hip's not dropping. And then bring your left hand back down and the right foot back down, and just come down to prayer, take a break. Just let your breath come back to its calmer rhythm, your heart rate come back to more of a resting heart rate. You can extend your exhale to make that happen a little faster. And then let's come up onto our knees. So bring your hands back, probably back to your sacrum, and roll your shoulders back and down. And then lift the heart, coming into camel. So the hips are pressing forward, and you're really lengthening up. So it's a back bend, but not really dropping back. More strengthening and lifting up. And then just release it and sit back down for a moment. You can stretch your wrists. Just turn your fingertips back. Maybe bend the elbows a little. And then we'll come up again. You might try clasping your hands this time. Maybe tucking your toes. And coming into camel again. And so this is the same pose as bridge pose, in a different orientation to gravity. If it's part of your practice to reach for your heels, you could do that. Some people think that's not a good idea. It works for me, but it might not work for everybody. And then release it. And just come back to sit on your heels for a moment. You could do a little cat-cow around the spine, and then gentle arch, just kind of moving a little bit. And then let's come forward onto our belly. And let's do a quad stretch. So you could bring your left forearm across the front of your mat in front of you and reach back for your right foot. And bring the heel in towards the buttock. So different ways to do that. You could also spin your fingertips around the top of the foot if you can, or just drawing the heel in. Remembering that your knee is pretty much a hinge, so we're not twisting the knee much. And then release that side. Bring your right arm across the front of the mat. Really press into the forearm and lift up, and you could bring your left hand back for the left foot, maybe spinning your fingers so you can stretch the top of the foot. You can also just drawing your heel in towards the buttock. Stretching the quads, and one more breath. And then release that. And just rock your hips a little. You can just release your low back, let it go. Breathe into the belly. And then let's do bow pose. So you're going to reach your hands back and clasp your ankles. And then draw yourself up into this back bend. Bow pose. You could roll over onto your side, come onto your left side, perhaps. It's pretty deep feeling in the middle back there, and then roll back onto your belly and over onto your right side. Again, doing that as gracefully as you can. So again, this is right here is camel pose really, and it's also bridge pose. If you rolled all the way over onto your back, you'd be in bridge pose, holding onto your ankles. And then roll back onto your belly. I tried to do that recently and it was kind of awkward, so I'm going to pass on it tonight. Rock your hips a little side to side. Not that anybody really cares, but you know. Just breathe into your back. And then let's bring hands under shoulders and come back to child's pose. So just draw the hips back towards the heels. You can bring your arms back. And just slowly, if it feels hard for your neck or even for your back, just make your knees wider. That generally helps. Bringing your forehead down. And just releasing, breathing into your back. See if you can completely soften and surrender for a moment. And then let's come back up. Let's do one more thing with camel pose. So you can have your toes tucked or not, it's your choice. But let's, how do I want to do this? Let's come into camel. And let's lift the left arm and just kind of press into your sacrum and looking back over your right shoulder. That could also, some people might want to do that with their hand on their heel and then come back up. Use your core to help draw yourself back up and then come to the other side. Either with hand on the heel or on the sacrum. Little back bend. And then back up. And again, just come back to sit. Maybe a little round of the spine, just counter pose. And then let's do another quad stretch. So a couple of options. One would be with one leg straight. So let's say your right leg straight. And then you're going to kind of roll your calf out of the way. The heel of your left foot is up alongside your hip. And then you might come back. Some people like to have a block or something under the right side. You could also come all the way back onto your back. Let's just do that one leg. That looks good. Everybody's doing it. So we did this on our belly. Now we're doing it on our back. So gravity is assisting. You might step your right foot in and bend the knee. make your way back up. You can support yourself with your hands as you come up, and then we'll extend the left leg, and we'll bend the right knee, kind of roll the calf out, keeping your heel right up alongside your hip, and coming back. If you're on a hard floor, it's nice to roll a mat up and put it underneath the tops of your feet. I can't stand the top of my foot pressing into a hard floor, but we got lots of padding here, so just coming down, you can bend your left knee if you want, or keep it straight. It kind of feels like if you bend your left knee, it gives you a little bit of leverage to kind of move the hips, and so you might play with that. Try to relax your upper body. It's a pretty deep stretch of the quads. Making sure your knee is happy with it. And feeling your breath. And then I like to kind of put my right hand into my heel as I kind of to help me get back up. And then straighten both of your legs out. You could actually bring your hands back and just kind of reset yourself. And then let's sit up and do a forward bend. So if you can reach your feet without rounding, you can reach for your feet, or you could just bring your hands down if you feel yourself rounding to get there. Sometimes it's nice to kind of stretch the feet this way too, drawing the toes down. So taking some breaths here in this seated forward bend, Paschimottanasana. You could kind of rock a little bit to get some of your further forward on your sit bones to allow your lower back to be a little more in the neutral position. It's trying to avoid rounding your low back. So tailbone is lifting. And then just coming back up. And let's do a seated twist. So I'm currently not bending my right knee in a seated twist because it's been slightly tweaked. So, but you could bend it and bring your left foot over, or you can keep your right leg straight and bring your left foot onto the outside of your right thigh. And sit up tall. Just find your spine and your breath, and then we'll come into the twist. So come in slowly. Today, I came to Bob's class, and he was saying first to set yourself up and feel the different parts of the pose, and then to start to envision yourself in the pose. So using visualization. And that can be really helpful, especially when you're transitioning from one position to another, before you make the transition, to kind of picture how you're going to do it, what it's going to look like, so that you're kind of embodying that movement ahead of time. Just one more breath there. And then turning back to face forward, pick your left foot up and bring it onto the inside of your right thigh. And you have a strap if you want it, or I think you do. You could use your strap if that's more comfortable. Trying to just keep your long spine and coming forward into the forward bend. So there's a little bit of a tiny bit of twist that you have to come into to get over your right thigh. I think this is actually it's really kind of a hard pose, especially for people who haven't been doing it, because you've got your externally rotated left hip, and you've got a lot of stretch happening in the back of the right leg, and your spine, and a little bit of twisting and breathing. I guess every pose is kind of complicated and hard, but this one looks like it would be easy. Or maybe you picture yourself as a child doing it, and it seems like that would be easy, but then you get older and it's like more complicated or something. So just breathing. So it's good that you're doing yoga because then when you're 54, you'll be like, hey, I did yoga all those years and I can still do these things. Because that use it or lose it thing's it's kind of true. Doesn't mean you lose it forever, but because you can always get it back, but it's harder. And then coming up, bring your left hand back to right behind your seat and lift up, coming up into this back bend, which is called Ardha Mandalasana, half circle. So you could just look down at your left hand, pressing the hips forward, turning the palm of your right hand towards the back of the room so that your shoulder blade can slide. Breathing. And then circle back around. And maybe come back into the forward bend. Maybe not super far, but just kind of counter pose. And then coming back up. And let's flip-flop the legs. So we'll just bring the right foot onto the outer left thigh, and we'll take the twist. So sit up tall. Find your breath. You could bring your left hand underneath your thigh or wrap it around. Just keep the shoulders drawing down the back. So turning towards the bent knee. So other way. There you go. Nothing wrong with twisting that way, but just so that we're doing both sides. So feeling how the lower back doesn't twist much. It stays pretty solid. Those big vertebrae, your lumbar vertebrae are pretty solid. And then you have some more movement up further into your thoracic area and the neck. So just not overcompensating by pulling your neck too hard or anything. So make it a nice twist, breathing, and then turning back to face forward, stepping your right foot into the left thigh. I have to grab a block, but coming into the forward bend. I'm just gonna make sure nobody asked for anything else. So my right knee is a little tweaked, like I mentioned, so I'm gonna prop it so that it doesn't have to feel strained. And then coming forward into the forward bend. Keeping all of your parts moving. Couple more breaths. And then we'll come back up and bring your right hand down by the right hip and lift up, pressing your hips forward, coming into that Ardha Mandalasana, the half circle, pressing the hips forward, and look down at your hand, just taking a breath, and then circling back, maybe taking a little forward bend. And coming up, for time. Let's bring your hands back behind you and just let your knees go from side to side. So let them come over to one side. You could kind of lift your heart and then over to the other. It's okay to move your hands too. And then maybe the next time your knees come over to the right, you can pick up your left hand and bring it over and come into a little twist. So keep lifting your heart and shoulders are sliding down the back of the rib cage. Again, we're not trying to torque the low back real hard here, so a gentle twist. And then lift your left hand up and over, bring the knees back up to center, and knees over to the left, lift your right hand, bring it over. So you're going to twist on the other side, drawing belly in, lifting your head and shoulders, breathing. And then bringing the right hand back up and back to center. And then you could bring your hands, I'm going to come this way, bring your hands back, maybe the fingertips are pointing back behind you. So the shoulders are open, and then lift your hips. Coming into this, I don't know what this pose is called. I think it's called Parsvottanasana if you walk your feet forward. So notice how the neck gets tired here. Kind of keep your chin tucked, lift a little higher, and then slowly bring the hips down. Keep your shoulders open. You could walk your hands back a little bit further. Maybe you could clasp your hands behind you and kind of stretch the shoulders. Be careful, it's an intense, deep stretch. Yeah, so you can keep the hands open too and just kind of lift the heart. And then bring your feet soles together and round forward, just kind of a counter pose, tortoise. Bringing your head towards the soles of the feet. Letting the knees open out to the sides. So kind of broadening in the back like a turtle. And then coming back up, you could bring your feet in closer. So you're in cobbler's pose. Different ways to do it. You could bring your hands underneath the feet or maybe to the ankles. And maybe you're coming forward a bit with a long spine. And if you're rounding, just do it, make sure that you're doing that intentionally. So you're not just randomly kind of dropping the head. That kind of tends to interfere with the breath. So I'm just paying attention. And then coming back up. And let's come into frog pose. So now we'll kind of come in the opposite direction with opening the knees. So maybe the feet are coming together and the knees apart. And just finding your breath here and your long spine. It's just interesting how we're all put together differently, because that sure looks like no big deal for you. But this is a hard pose for a lot of people, including myself. So just noticing. Sometimes when we're really hyperflexible in some way, like I have certain things and have had a lot of flexibility in some ways, we have to be careful too. Because it can be easy to we need to find some strength around that. So you might bring your feet out, so your feet are coming down from your knees, and flex your feet, kind of pressing your ankles see if you can press your ankles into the ground and kind of like hold it for a moment and then release. Breathing. You might be able to walk your hands back and kind of come into like a little bit of a back bend. If the hips come forward, that helps a little bit. As long as that feels safe for your low back. So it's like a cobra frog. And then just bring the feet back together and the knees together. And let's try a squat, and then we'll try crow pose. So come into your squat. You could have your toes slightly turned out. You can always have if squatting is difficult for your body for any reason, you can always put a block underneath your butt to support you. And then just come into your squat and maybe press the knees apart with the elbows. So take a breath there, and then we'll come into our crow. So usually here we tend to do it with kind of a wider base with the hands, and bringing the knees onto the back of the upper arms, and maybe lifting up the feet. You could also just play with it, keeping the feet on the ground, and keeping the tail lifting and the head and shoulders lifting so you're staying in that kind of neutral spine. Nice. Good job. And just coming out and taking a breath. Awesome. And then come up into your forward bend for a moment. Just releasing. You can bend your knees. You could even widen, just widen your feet, maybe come sideways on your mat. Widen your feet, maybe bring your hands back behind your neck, behind your head, tractioning a little bit, if that feels good. Tipping the tail up, and then release that. Let's walk the hands over to the left ankle or foot. You can let go of your head, relax it, draw the right hip back. Walking hands over towards the right lower leg or foot. Nice steady breath. And then hands back to center. You could walk your hands forward, maybe come up under your fingertips and just kind of traction for a moment, kind of lifting the armpits. Lifting the belly, feeling your feet on the floor, and then walk the hands back in, heel toe your feet together, and let's just come up to stand for a moment, and let's take 3 grounding breaths, just sweeping the arms up like we did at the beginning of class, like we're gathering up some nice, fresh, clean air with a air quality index of like 1, and bring it back down. And 2 more times. Just sweep the arms up, gathering up that good, old, fresh northwest air that's going to come back in like 24 hours. Can't wait. And last one. We're going to be so grateful when we can open our windows again. Just bring your hands together at your heart and pause for a moment. And let's do a couple, I'm going to set my mat off to the side. Let's do a couple of one-legged balances, and then we'll come down onto our backs. And maybe use the ball. So let's do tree pose. So we'll stand on the right foot and just really find your foot on the floor. Bring your left foot up probably into the inner thigh, keeping the hips pretty level. Maybe bringing the hands together at the heart, maybe lifting like the branches of a tree. So the right hip is wrapping back. You're kind of opening the hips. It's okay if you wobble or fall out. Just coming back in. Maybe just 2 or 3 more breaths. Rooting down and reaching up at the same time. And you can always stand next to the wall if you need that. And then just release it slowly. And just circle toes, ankles, knees, and hips, just resetting yourself. And we'll stand on the left foot. And bring our right foot up into perhaps the thigh, or it could be lower. Keeping your hips pretty level, finding your breath, finding something to gaze at that's not moving. I was kind of looking down on the street for the last one, and I was starting to wobble, so finding something to focus on and breathing. The Domino's pizza guy was driving by with his pizzas in his box. I guess he must go up this street to the fraternities and sororities probably 100 times a night or something. Now I'm just distracting you, sorry. And just another breath or 2. And then we'll just slowly, see if you can just step out of it very gracefully. And circle. And let's do one more since we're here. So let's do warrior 3 into like a twist. So you might just lift your arms. I guess let's stand on the left foot first. And then come forward onto your left foot. Coming into warrior 3. So keeping the hips pretty level. I'm just going to turn this way. Wobbling is totally fine once again. And then bring your hands down. Bring your right hand down and open up into the twist. So really drawing your left hip back. Press back through the right heel, opening your chest. You can keep looking down or you can look up. And then bring your left hand down to the floor. And bend your left knee and step your right foot forward, coming up. And then we'll lift the arms and we'll stand on right foot. Coming forward into warrior 3. Right hip draws back. Hips stay square and level. And then left hand will come down and we'll open into the twist. You can keep a bend in the right knee if you need to. Nice steady breath. And then bring your right hand down, bend your right knee and step your left foot forward, coming up. And let's just let our arms hang for a moment. And then we're going to come onto our back. And actually, let's have the ball. So, hopefully you guys all have your ball handy. I'm going to bring the camera down. Whoops. Get a close-up of my hands there. So bring the ball underneath your upper back. And then reach back and support your head. And then you can roll on the ball, maybe bringing it into your upper shoulders and lifting the hips. So you're in bridge pose. We didn't do the forearm plank for Ruth Bader Ginsburg. But we did do the side plank and we did regular plank. So, what was that?
We can still do the plank.
We could, but now we're on our back, so I've looked up a couple times to see the kinds of things she did. She did a lot of stuff in the gym, but she definitely did planks. And then you might bring yourself up and just kind of, I like to get the ball kind of into the lat area because there's often a lot of tension there. You can keep your hands clasped behind your head, maybe even just kind of draping over it. And then you kind of get a stretch on the other side of your body as well. And then just when you're ready, switching sides. The last time I did this, I was sore the next day because there's a lot of tension there underneath the arm, kind of on the side or not in the armpit, but to the side of it. And then just come back onto your back and roll a little bit for a moment. And then we might take the ball down lower, bringing your head back down, bring the ball underneath your sacrum. And you could do a little press and release your tailbone. So press the tailbone into the ball and then lift it so you're kind of you're just moving your pelvis basically. And then bringing the arms out to the sides, press your tailbone into the ball and lift your legs up. Let's do a few leg downs. So pressing tailbone into the ball, we'll inhale the right heel towards the floor, almost all the way to the floor, hover, and then exhale, press your tailbone into the ball and bring the foot back up. Inhale, left heel down, almost to the floor, press tailbone down, exhale, bring it back up. Maybe you're switching and doing both feet together, heels together, toes apart. Inhale the heels down, press tailbone down, exhale back up. You can do one leg at a time also. So keeping the belly long, keep pressing tailbone into the ball as you bring your legs back up, moving with the breath a couple more times. Inhale down, exhale back up. This time, the last one, bring both heels down towards the floor and hover briefly, lengthen your belly, and then let the feet come all the way down so that you're draped over the ball, opening up the front of your hips. And just feel your breath. It's a good place to feel it because your lungs are really stretching, so you can feel the air coming in and out through your nose. Let your belly move with the breath. And then walk your feet back in and take the ball out. Just set it off to the side. And let's come up into bridge pose. So lift your hips up. And you could either clasp hands underneath you, or you could also reach your ankles. Try to keep a little of your natural curve underneath the neck. So untuck your chin a little. So you're back in the same. We've done all three poses. We've done bridge now, we did camel, and we did bow. These are all the same thing, different orientation to gravity. If you're holding your ankles, release and slowly roll down. And then we'll come up one more time, and if you would like to come up into full wheel pose, you could do that. Or you can come back up into bridge. Both are really good options. So if you're going to come into a full back bend, bring your hands back and press up. You can come up onto the balls of your feet. Taking a couple breaths. And coming down when you're ready. And then just draw your knees in towards your chest, rocking side to side. And then let's bring the right foot down to the floor with the right knee bent and bring your left ankle on top of your right knee. And you could press into the tops of your thighs and kind of just feel a little lengthening of your low back. And then reach through behind your right thigh, lifting your right foot up, maybe pressing your left elbow into the left knee. I like to rock side to side. Feeling the stretch in the back of your left hip. And then let go of the back of your right thigh. You could bring your right foot back down and take your right hand on top of your left ankle. And then let your left foot come over to the right. Maybe you can still hold on to the ankle while you do that. So you're in a twist. You're holding your left ankle with your right hand. Maybe your left arm is coming out to the opposite, to the left, and you're looking back over your left shoulder. Everybody gets that? You did. Yay. That one always confuses people. I think I'm getting better at explaining it, probably. It's hard when there's lots of left and rights in one pose. You can feel the breath really, especially in the left side of your rib cage. And then just bringing yourself back up to center. You can let go of your ankle and flip-flop your legs. So bring right ankle on top of your left knee. Reaching through for the back of the left thigh. maybe pressing your right elbow into the right knee, maybe rocking, feeling that outer hip stretch. Flexing your right foot, probably. And then releasing the back of the thigh. You could bring your left hand right on top of your right ankle. Bring your right arm out to the right, to the side, and let your right foot come over to the left into the twist as you hold on to the ankle if possible. And feeling the stretch in the right side of the torso and then you can release it and draw your knees into your chest and rock a little bit. And then just bring the soles of the feet together and the knees apart, coming into this reclined cobbler's pose, Supta Baddha Konasana. Letting the backs of your hands come to the floor, or you can also reach up and overhead. Clasp your elbows for a moment, just find your breath here. Just really starting to surrender the weight of your body to the floor, to gravity. Feeling the breath coming in and out through your nose. And then just extending your legs and bringing your arms down by your sides. And coming into your final resting pose, your corpse pose. And just practicing some surrender there. Having a few moments with it. Allowing yourself to be very heavy and surrendered. So just grounding yourself again and again. There's a lot going on in our world. It's easy to start spinning out into all of the things that can feel catastrophic, but here you are in your own body with your own breath. And your body is familiar and comfortable. And your breath is life-giving. So feeling it, just feeling the breath coming in and out of your body. See if you can kind of allow it to help you release further. Noticing if there's anywhere in your body that feels like it's resisting, or, it feels harder to surrender when we're stressed. Almost sometimes like we're being defiant with ourselves. We don't want to let ourselves relax or let go of it. But it's okay. It's okay to let it go. We can't control it. We can't really control the world right now. Just our own part in it. So bringing ourselves back to that again and again, to the things that we do have some power over. And one of those things is this practice of yoga that we all are participating in regularly. I know most of the people I'm seeing who are joining in this evening are regular practitioners, and this practice has taken us through the last 6 months of uncertainty and all sorts of new experiences. So taking a couple more breaths before we come back to our seats. Maybe we can bring some of this feeling of connection with our physical body and our breath, and with surrender and with a softening. So you might begin to move a little and roll back onto your side, coming back up to your seat. If you're sitting up on a block or a cushion, take the time to make yourself comfortable. And then just coming into the breath here in this upright position again. Feeling heavy in your seat and balanced in your seat. So you might notice if you can kind of even that out a little. Keeping the face and jaw relaxed. You might take your hands up and just give yourself a quick moment of feeling into the muscles around the jaw. Maybe up in the temples, just keeping them relaxed. You could also tap a little bit under your eyes and up on the brow. And then just release it. Bring your hands down again. And pause. Bringing the hands together at the heart. And you could bow your head to your own practice. Pausing to recall your intention for practice if you set one tonight. Bowing your head to your own inner teacher, to your higher self or your higher power. Namaste. Thank you so much for coming. Nice to meet you. And nice to see you, Kelly. I was listening to the news before I came in. They were talking about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and one of the things that people kept saying about her was that she talked slowly and very intentionally, and really she never said like or didn't babble. She was very precise in her language and slow and measured, and that's very inspiring because I'm kind of a person who talks a lot, and I'm trying to learn how to be more precise with my language. So just something to learn from her and her incredible, intelligent mind. See you guys soon. Thank you.